Alrighty then, welcome back to Death by Dragons. I'm going to do something a little bit different today. It's still related to Kings of War, but really you can use this for any kind of war game system as long as it's turn-based. I'm going to show you how to play by mail on Universal Battle 2. Now hopefully prior to this you will have seen the Hobby Source video that talked about how to use Universal Battle 2 to play Kings of War. If you haven't checked out that video yet, I'll put a link in the description below. I highly recommend you do. It's a great intro to using Universal Battle 2 to play Kings of War. Also, it's a great channel, so check him out. However, the problem I've been having is that often finding that 3 to sometimes 4 hours to sit and play a game online is difficult. I've got a family, I've got a job, I'm sure you guys have too. I like to spend time with my partner, but so that chunk of time is quite difficult. But I was playing in a US-based Kings of War tournament, and the organizer, Mike Sedelmeier, had come up with a super way to play by mail, which meant you didn't have to sit at your computer for 3 hours. And that's what I'm going to go through now. The most important thing is when you found somebody you want to play, you're both going to be logging into the same account when you make your move. So make sure it's somebody you trust. That being said, I'll go through the different steps you need to do to make it happen now. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is create a match like normal. So we click to create a match. Here we go. Now, the first thing you're going to want to do is to have your terrain down. Now, Universal Battle comes preloaded, or other people have saved, the Epic Dwarf maps, which were created by, I think it was Lars from the Giant Dwarf podcast. That's really handy. There's 20 of them, so we're just going to roll a d20. Most important thing, always say what you're doing in the chat channel. Map number 12. So we go to Maps, Load, and in the search bar we type KOW. Oops. There's map number 12, and we can load it straight away. Some of them are saved under Epic Dwarf rather than KOW, so just be mindful of that. We can lock that, and we're ready to play. So some of the things that you would normally do with your opponent, you're not able to do with your opponent, obviously, because you're playing on your own each turn, so you do it for them. As long as you agree with your opponent this is okay, it's generally not a problem. So we want to be rolling off for things like the scenario, the side, who deploys first, so on and so forth. So in this case we're going to roll for scenario, so we're going to roll a d12. Don't forget to say what you're doing. So I've got scenario number 8. Scenario number 8 is kill. That's convenient for this because I don't need any more setup on the battlefield. Obviously, some scenarios do need tokens putting down. Some players that I know are happy to kind of mail that back and forwards and put down tokens as you would normally. Some people just avoid those scenarios, re-roll them until you get one that doesn't require that kind of stuff. Just because it makes the game that much longer before you actually get into playing. In this case it's fine, it's just kill. Then we're going to roll off for sides. Obviously I don't have my opponent to roll off against, so I just roll a d2 and say roll for sides. 1, I get bottom. Sorry. 2, I get top. Okay, so I've got the top. That's fine. Now normally the person who chose sides would deploy first, but I haven't chosen, so I'm going to roll again to see who deploys first. In this case I'm not, because I need to deploy first to show you how, but you get the idea. So I'm going to deploy my first unit. Now normally you deploy units one at a time, obviously, but that makes the game again really long. You can do it that way if you like, particularly if you're in the same time zone, it can be pretty quick. Another thing that I like to do is if your opponent actually logs in on their account, they can deploy troops and you can mirror their deployment so that then they can delete their stuff and you can save the deployment. That's if you happen to be online at the same time. But often you're playing someone in a different time zone or it's not convenient, so you do it this way. So we're going to deploy 2 at a time. I'll do that and then we'll come back. Okay, I've deployed my first 2 units and I've set up some rulers to mark out the deployment areas. Now I need to save the game and send it to my opponent. So I go to save, and I'm going to save it on this slot. I'm saving it as S, which is me, Steve, VM, which is going to be Matt. He doesn't know he's playing me yet, but he will. Deploy. Okay, that's saved. So now he can come in and deploy his units on top of the same thing. First thing I'm going to do though, before I quit out, click on the cog and copy the chat. And then I'm going to email it to him so he can see the roles, just so it's all open. You want to do that every single time. Sometimes you'll forget and it's cool, but if you're wiping out your opponent's dragon, for example, you kind of want them to see the role. So it is important to always copy the chat and paste it into an email. So here we go. An email to Matt, deployment. Hi Matt. I've deployed my troops, my first 2 troops. Your turn. I'm going to paste the log down below. So there we go. And I'm going to send that off. Okay, so now when my opponent logs into the game, they can create a blank map. Go to load. And the game's ready for them to deploy. Everything's perfect. One thing to be mindful of is that all the controls reset every time you log in. So you need to put everything back the way you like it. And you'll also have to lock the terrain every single time. Otherwise you start moving hills around and stuff, which isn't great. Okay, so they then save it on the same slot with the same name. They don't need to send the chat log back to me because they're only just moving troops around, they're not rolling anything. And we continue that way until we finish deploying our armies. I'm going to do that now, and then we'll come back. Okay, so we'll assume we finished our final deployment, and now we're ready to roll for sides. So we do it in the same way, by rolling a d2. And we say 1, you go first, 2, I go first. I go first, how convenient. So now I can make my first moves. So let's say, I don't know what I'm going to do. I'm not even sure what these units are. So let's just say these guys move 12. Oh no wait, I'm the guys at the top. Let's do that. So I make my first moves. Don't forget to do vanguard moves before your first move, if that's necessary, but in this case we're just going to move forward. To make things easier, we're all going to move forward. And I'm going to assume we're the same speed. Obviously, these guys can move here. There you go. After that first move, you want to save it as something different. Because you're not in the deployment phase anymore, you're at the top of turn 1. So in this case, we save it on a new slot, SVM top of 1. Okay? And then I can send that log and these moves to my opponent. Now, when my opponent comes back in and he makes his first moves, he saves the chat log. We would do any shooting and so on and so forth, and we'd put the markers. So let's say I shot him on this first turn and I'd done some wounds. Whatever. I've done 4 wounds to this unit, let's say. So he's then going to make his move. When he comes in to save, he saves over the deployment phase. We don't need that anymore. We've both seen it and we're both happy with it. There's no arguments. And you don't want to create a great big giant list of saves. Maybe you do, but Universal Battle currently doesn't allow you to delete saves, so it can get a little bit messy. So we want to keep the top of 1 because that's the move that's just been done and we might need to go back to check. We can save over deploy with SVM with bottom of 1. Okay, this is assuming he's made his move. And you do that in succession, so then you save, when you've made that move, I will then save top of 2 over the one that was top of 1. So we've always got 2 sets. We've got the set of moves that have just been made and the set of moves that were made previously. Each time we do our moves, we roll our dice. Let's say I roll 20d6. We say what we're doing, 20 attacks on 4s and 5s. In this case I've got 11 hits. I'm pretending I haven't got a lead because I can't be bothered. There we go, and I've got 3 wounds. 3 wounds. So you put the wounds on, you do all your moves, you save your turn, you go to the chat log, you copy it, you email it to your opponent, and then they take their turn. You go through the whole game in that manner. You need 2 save slots and one account. Okay, that's it. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you have any questions about how this works, feel free to put them in the comments below. Or you can look me up on Facebook in the Kings of War Fanatics group, where I'm posting reasonably regularly. I'd like to thank Mike Settlemire for coming up with this. I think it's great. It's a lovely way to play at your convenience without having to give big chunks of your time over to just sitting in front of the PC or Mac or tablet or whatever you're playing on. If you think about a clocked game, it's what, 60 minutes, let's say, on a clock, so maybe 10 minutes per turn. I've got a couple of these games going at any one time. It's a really nice distraction. You can spend 10 minutes a day just putting your moves in, sending to your opponent. A really great way to get some practice in. And yeah, I hope you enjoyed it. I'll see you next time on Death by Dragons.